Legislative Advocacy and Community Engagement Committee. We have a short period between our September meetings and our October, so there's not too many new things to discuss, but I feel like with this committee, we can always last an hour, or more. So,
Or we could just be done a little early.
No. All right, so we'll get started. We're going to start with our district website, and just get a quick update on that.
Yeah, sure. So we continue to prepare for the unveiling of our website. We're getting closer. As we mentioned last week, as the school year started, we kind of took a step sideways to make sure that our staff was able to get everything that they needed to do in order to make sure school year started off. But as far as the migration of the core content, the populating of the framework, and even some of the aesthetic pieces that were very important to us, and the functional pieces like the calendar, the mobile friendly, prioritized, and we briefly talked about that last night. And that seems to be favorably, something that was favorably received by our residents that were with us. But one of the things that they had mentioned was a little bit of a pivot from what was the teachers had historically used as their class websites, which back in the day, those have since evolved into learning management systems, Google and parts of the district, and then Schoology here at the high school. So that isn't necessarily a big workaround, although it is time consuming. Some of the more exciting things that we've been working on now that school's in session is that through our work-based learning program at the Monroe High School, under our school-based internship program, some of our graphic design and digital design interns are now working to support this new website by traversing the district, obtaining high-res photos of our buildings that really kind of captures the 21st century feel of our district that this website's trying to convey. So we're actually putting our students to work now that are going to help us with some of those tasks. And then I believe Mr. Feldman is still targeting an end of November soft rollout, which will then give us, the benefit of some of the break to kind of clean up some of the things and collect some feedback from all the stakeholders in the community. It was, and again, he would speak to it more eloquently than I obviously can, but the fact that we've gotten as much, we're pretty much right on schedule as what we originally said. We had said October, and then once we had thought about the shift of, and kind of maybe potential confusion that the moving away from the teacher websites may have potentially caused parents, and just with that we're used to traditional methods of getting information about the first day of school and things like that.
Right.
We didn't want to really tinker with that, because that could have created some confusion. So that slowed things down a little bit, but we're feeling pretty good about our current trajectory of a November soft launch. And we think, based on what we've seen in our beta sites and kind of the tests, both on the device, the iPhone, iPad, or whatever it is that you use, it looks really good. And the calendar feature is going to be a huge upgrade. And I know that was something that was important, not just to the committee, but to the community, and even, our staff that want to know what's going on throughout the district. So that's the update. It's not much anything fresh from last time, but we are, we're still on schedule. So there's been, between last time and today, we're still.
Nothing's changed. Mr. Payne.
Yes, I spoke to Chrissy. She's our Jamesburg rep on the Community Citizens Advisory Committee. And she was also mentioning, which we have too, how are we going to get to the Jamesburg parents and students the calendars and other things. So I think she said she had a child come in, and she has, I don't want to say what she said, but she had a child come in, whether they use Chromebooks in James? Yeah, they use Chromebooks down there. And then here they don't. So there's a lot of things differential between Jamesburg and us. And maybe if our website was more conducive, I know it's more work for you guys, but a little bit more conducive maybe to the 8th grade and the high school. What do you think?
I think for the 8th graders, just being especially more aware of
Right.
they're coming up options that are available. For example, I saw that there's a special needs track that 8th grade parents were invited to, but we didn't know about.
There's a what?
Like the special.
The academy.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, but we do, I don't know why they wouldn't be aware of it. We'll have to talk about that because I speak with Dr. Valani often.
Yeah.
So in the last 3 years since I've been here, and one of the things that we started doing is we started having Mr. Morale to bring his group down to discuss various different things, inclusive of the related arts, the different things. So that might have just been an error because.
Dr. Peck is referring to the honors academies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
different.
Is that different? Is that something
That,
you haven't shared yet?
that's different from what we go down and we preview our program.
So maybe this is a good thing because now this can be added to what we have been doing. Because I know prior to the 3 years before that, nothing had been done. And now we're very excited. We do so much, but can we add that as a,
Absolutely, I'll take
so
it.
that's a great idea to add.
And I think maybe in general, I don't know if there's a way for us to do it, but I know we discussed this last month, just having the Jamesburg students signing up for like the Monroe mailing list before they're in the high school. Because obviously, once they're at
So
Monroe.
why don't we just have them sign up when they start 8th grade?
So I
Well,
can
I
answer
would
both
say
questions.
I would say seventh grade, because
I
at least
don't,
it
you
gives
know,
them
I
a
don't
whole
think we do it.
year.
I can answer both questions separately. So I think, you were 100% right, and that was the feedback I believe Ms. Conce, shared
It
last
was,
night.
yeah.
And that's very similar to the feedback that we even get from our middle school parents. In its current state, our website is incredibly difficult to navigate. It's overloaded. There still remains, despite tremendous efforts to purge, irrelevant and, obsolete information. There's still pages buried within pages. And that was one of the things that we had spoken about during the initial migration. Sorry for flipping this way. One of the first things we did was we looked at the site and went through some of the dead weight. One of the ultimate solutions that this new site is going to provide is a much easier way to do what you just asked for. Find our programs of study, sign up for our mailing list, see what's happening. So that will be solved in the unveiling for all parties, even if you live in Cranberry or in the West Coast or something. You can find what we're offering. As for Jamesburg, so we are, for the last couple of years, we think with successfully have made some improvements. I'm not gonna say we've solved it, 'cause it's not true, but we've made some improvements on
Excellent
how
strides.
to,
Yes.
on how to,
Right.
make our students and our students over there, down the road, learn about our programs. And we have we've shared very publicly some troubling data about Jamesburg participation in some of our very specific programs, including STEM, which is one of the academies presented the other night. And in band specifically. But the reason why those two areas stand out is because those are two of our highest performing areas at the Monroe Township High School. And we miss our Jamesburg students in those programs. So we immediately tried to address that by just making them aware, our Jamesburg students aware of what's happening down there. Much like, educating our own parents on some of the new things we do, like for last year, we had gifted and talented programs, for example, at the middle school. Sometimes the rolling out of these programs happens at a pace that is very difficult for us to orient the public on. So these academies that, again, I don't want to speak for the high school on it, but they are fairly new and they're reconstructed. And they are time sensitive. So my guess is that this presentation is probably earlier than we had, we're talking about next year's stuff already. But I will gladly reach out to the high school's guidance office.
Thank you.
See what we can do to make sure that everyone's up to speed. That, in addition to what we already have planned, which is to go over there in January.
Correct.
We meet with 7th and 8th graders and their teachers and the administration over there. They've welcomed us. It's a great thing. They give us their gym for the day. The staff over there works around us while they set up. It's a really cool thing. Our teachers go down there with students and preview our electives. And then our teacher will even speak to the whole group and then tell them what.
Yeah,
And even in the last couple of years, what we did was.
I think this is the 3rd year, if not 4th, that
We
we'll be doing
even
this.
prioritized those areas where we're underrepresented, STEM and band. So like we want to address it explicitly. But those two areas, by the way, STEM specifically, not so much band, STEM is not only underrepresented by Jamesburg students, but females. So and that's data, that's national data. That's
Yeah.
not just here in Monroe, obviously. But so that's why, we try to very specifically make sure that, hey, these programs are everyone. We understand that GMB may not have maybe the layers, they don't have sixth grade, or they don't have the layers of the programs that we have offering at the high school, that high school's middle school is a high school facility, so naturally they have more opportunities. And that does create a little bit of a gap, but we try to close that through enrichment programs and by just orienting the students much earlier in the school year.
Yeah, and I think that's, definitely part of the conversation when we discuss, looking at the, merging and having, Mr. Green, come and speak with us. Because while I think there's things that Jamesburg offers that we can't, full day kindergarten, preschool, things like that. There's also programs that we have due to, I feel like, the size of our district and, we have obviously we have more staff, we have more facilities, things like that, Jamesburg, like, obviously can't have all of those things because of the different size. And this is, common in like the other small districts in New Jersey. Like, I remember there's one district that has like 53 kids, right? Like the whole district, it's hard to provide those things. But, I think in terms of the communication, and I know like there has been an improvement in that in the last several years, but for the eighth grade especially, maybe if something is sent to the eighth graders, it can also then be sent to the, to either the superintendent or the principal to send out to the Jamesburg eighth grade. I think we started getting magnet school information, but I'm an eighth grader too. And that might have been why they felt like it was important to share that academy information as well, because they wanted to present the different offerings.
And that's a very easy fix.
But
Yeah, I'll follow up on that immediately.
I appreciate that.
that maybe not a mailing list or,
Mhm.
even if it's just like, we send it home to our Jamesburg kids, like your parents can sign up to see these things because.
That wouldn't be necessarily the type of thing that they would get on a mailing list.
Okay.
No.
That,
It really, like you said, it really.
yeah,
is
so I'll
go
have
through-
to,
That, maybe that is, and it's guidance department.
unfortunately, this, it's one of those situations where you don't know it's a problem until.
You don't know what you didn't know, you didn't
So
know
I
it.
will, take a look at that.
Great. Any other questions about the website? So for the teachers that have a website still, or a Google Classroom or something like that, I know there was a discussion, they're gonna have like a virtual business
Yep.
card in essence with the link to their website then be on that.
Yeah, it's actually much more practical. So what we have found is the most common use for the old fashioned teacher website, I'll call it old fashioned because it's like, this is called those school wires. I used to have them. And they're incredibly annoying to update. So a lot of times they'll say, hey, what do you need for the first day of school? That's like the one thing that is for elementary, we found is the most common purpose for that. It's here's my email address, here's what you need for the first day of school. Oh, by the way, here's the link to the Google Classroom, because everyone's using Google Classroom now. Until you get to hear them in Schoology. So what this business card does is it just replaces that in a much more practical way. So if I'm looking for Ms. Ratner, I go to the website, I see Ms. Ratner, I click on it, there's her email address, what she's teaching. Here's the link to your Google Classroom. So, and then so my understanding is that it's just a matter of making sure whatever information our elementary teachers needed available to parents in the beginning of the school year, we didn't want to touch that. That's why that November date made sense to us, because we're up and running, we can start tinkering with that and do a soft transition. But yeah, that portal remains there. And there's a woman actually that we just hired that works for us in the business department at the high school who has some experience with this, with a similar rollover in her previous district, and she was involved in that, and she had described this very thing
Mhm.
as the last step that held them up.
Right.
And because for the same exact reason, they didn't want to tinker with teacher material.
Mhm.
So that's where that November date kind of makes sense. It also gives them enough time to do it sensitively and then make sure the staff is on board. And I do believe Mr. Feldman was actually surveying staff
Yeah,
recently.
the middle school and high school will completely transition, well, the high school completely transitioned to Schoology.
Mhm.
There were a handful
Right.
or less than teachers that even had a website, because everybody's on Schoology to begin with. Middle school, most use Google Classroom or some other virtual page. A handful, again, had a website. At the elementary level, many have what Mr. Monroe just described, and that's where the transition is taking place, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Just because, a little bit off topic, but it sort of came up, in terms of the supplies at the beginning of the year, I know that there's been some discussion like in August and stuff about trying to get that information out earlier. I know it's hard because if it's based on the teacher list, you have to wait until, you know, who your assigned teacher is. I know like certain schools definitely have the grade level list so that all teachers are asking for mostly the same supplies. And I know like the middle school one is obviously like team.
No, we do, but we do grade level. I changed it 7 years ago. So
Okay,
no matter what team you're on, seventh grade science requires the same thing. I did it on purpose so that the parents are not waiting for the team.
okay.
So that's a fact.
All right, I can only speak to like my own
changed
experience, that there was like the eighth grade supplies list, but then the team list asked for slightly different things.
Not, it should not be. If that happened, that is incorrect, because what occurs is, because we had this problem, because we can't get the list out in July, and everybody's having their sales, and everybody's getting excited, and they want to start
Right.
the end of July. What we did was we said sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, unless it's a specialty class.
Right.
Sixth, seventh, and eighth grade, seventh grade science, eighth grade ELA, sixth grade math, supplies are the same across the board regardless of what team.
Okay, it was like very small differences, so
Well,
it
that's
wasn't a problem.
Okay, but no, and not that it's a problem, but we want to be consistent because it's not fair to parents. Parents need to be able to shop when they want,
Right.
and they should be able to say, not worried about whether you're Team Vega or Team Senator. Doesn't make a difference. So
Is that something you're looking to do at the elementary level, or is that?
It's already in place.
Okay.
If it's not, it
Should be.
it should be, because the expectation is
same thing.
every grade level has a grade level list.
Okay,
And that's,
and that's by
That's
district
available.
or by school?
that's
By school.
by school.
By school.
Yep,
Okay.
and then,
Which is fine, because your kids go to Mill Lake, your kids go to Mill Lake.
Right,
your
right.
kids go
and
to-
that should be posted throughout the summer. And then,
Okay,
It
You
was
know.
very helpful this year.
Yeah.
right, right, I know like, right, I know for me, we had the grade levels at, like, that's where I am, but then I heard other parents at other schools that,
So if a parent comes to you and has a concern, they should just go directly to their actual school and say,
Right.
it's my understanding that it's the same, list like it's the same thing in the middle school.
Mhm.
If for any reason you're getting, I mean, unless you're talking about one teacher who perhaps has this passion that does,
Right.
or maybe it's avid.
right,
So there's added certain requirements as well, but other than that, it has been consistent for a very long time. I'm waiting for my text from Dr. Higgins to say that is correct. Blah, 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 blah.
I'm getting people.
So everybody watching this.
All right, sounds good. So let's move on. I want to just touch, I know I'm going kind of out of order here, which is not abnormal for me, but, the legislator correspondence, I know we've been talking about this for a while. I'd love to get this finalized, this month. I don't know if we need board approval for the letter. I don't think we do, but
So
I can still mention in the
from
report.
From the committee.
But if we have the information, as far as the kindergarten cost, just to add to that.
yeah, Mr. Tate gave me a number. I'll send it to you. I'll get it to you.
Okay, wonderful. And then the other thing was the grant restrictions, which I think is very simple. Just, we can't apply for preschool aid because we don't full day kindergarten. Here's what other districts are getting. I can add that.
Please,
And
because we personally reached out, and the issue is, I'm very sorry, it is a grant for preschool. Oh, you don't have full day kindergarten?
Right.
I said, okay, so give me the money for preschool, we'll put it in the kindergarten.
Yeah,
Right.
just use it for kindergarten. Thanks so
Right.
much.
Yeah, I mean, or even, we do have preschool because we have the, the preschool disabled classes. So like, at least give us whatever.
Doesn't work.
So, I know. Okay, sounds good. So, yep, we'll try to get that finalized before the meeting next week, just to share with everybody. Sounds good. We'll go to the NJSBA legislative update review. So I get these as part of the legislative committee. I don't believe they're sent to everyone through NJSBA, at least until after the meetings, which did happen this past Saturday, but unfortunately I wasn't able to go because I was ill. However, there's always some really good information in these about the bills and what movement's taken place and whether or not New Jersey School Board supports it or they don't support it. There have been a couple where we're at the meetings and we're like, well, why don't you support this? And, sometimes I fully agree with the reasons, sometimes I don't, but, ultimately that's how it goes. So I wanted to just sort of look through this really quickly and point out anything that anyone felt like was really important to discuss. There's, I believe this actually just happened, the Freedom to Read Act. which I-
That's what that gentleman.
I've heard a lot about that.
Right.
Yes, they mentioned it the other night at the meeting.
And the gentleman keeps on coming up at the
Right.
board meeting and asking
Yes.
this question.
Right, which I believe they had still as pending on this because it just happened, but I think It passed one of the houses, I forget.
So could I ask,
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. What's important to note about legislation that comes to us is we don't have the option to not support that.
Correct, right.
Because if it comes to us, then it's our job to implement that. Otherwise, we risk
right, no, we
money.
have,
Like, we have to support it, whether our personal feelings have to be out of it.
Right.
They're,
Well-
they're irrelevant to the.
and I think, and I agree with you 100%. I think also, we have to also look and see, it says established requirements for library material in public school. Library material, we cannot make the assumption, perhaps that gentleman feels very strongly, he's saying that these are the things that are gonna be in there. Well, until we're told in black and white, this book, that book, this book, it just perhaps means it allows the belief system of not being any books. That's how I evaluate it, and I'm sure that Dr. Lehman would agree that if we needed to have a discussion, we would absolutely ask Dr. Rozell to be prepared. I think it would make the most sense to discuss what books, if any, that would concerns us with the Freedom to Read Act.
Yeah, I don't think the Freedom to Read Act identifies books. What it does is it's overarching, requires there to be a system in place for a book challenge. And
I think it's library material. I think it actually refers to some, I mean, I could be
it doesn't
wrong.
list books though.
Oh, okay.
What it does is it's, in essence, puts a protection in place
Mhm.
for librarians, whether they're public, township
Okay.
librarians.
Or school librarians.
To, like, we have expectations, we have a process in which they purchase materials. People may not, in a public library, maybe they do or don't. People may have a belief that certain materials shouldn't be in a school. And they may take action to hold the person who purchased those materials accountable.
Oh, that's what this
This
is.
is putting in place
Oh,
protections for an employee to potentially have, it's my job to provide this sort of diverse, reading selection, and there's some level of protection. Again, this has to be flushed out.
I was gonna say,
down to our
because
level,
when the
but-
gentleman comes again, and he will next Wednesday, which I understand, and he asked that, I want to make sure that we have the information. If we haven't been given the information yet, because you just said it beautifully, you just said it puts protections, and his response, or anybody's response might be, and it's on the other side of the coin, saying to you, okay, well, what are you protecting? And I think that is what his question is when the gentleman comes forward. What materials are being
It
protected?
sounds like it's safeguarding the librarians also, and the people who are
Well,
putting the
I believe
books.
that's part of this is.
Right, that's what it sounded like that you just said. Was that, am I
In terms
correct
of
on
their,
that?
it's their job, they've been trained
Right,
to
right,
curate a
right.
collection.
And what is that
And
collection?
then when people challenge the
And that-
collection.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it says,
Yeah.
the Freedom to Read Act establishes requirements for library material in public school libraries and public libraries and establishes protections for school library staff members and librarians.
Safeguard.
So I think we would not want to provide information that was erroneous, so if we're not sure, like you're saying it perfectly, but I just, to be completely transparent, the gentleman who came forward, and maybe there'll be more, maybe there'll be less, I don't know, and maybe they'll be on one side of the coin versus the other, or what they do or don't want, but he specifically keeps on saying, will you have certain materials, and the answer is at this time, not to our knowledge. We haven't been told yet that you have to have this, and this in your library. That is what he's trying to say.
I'm just
That's
reading
what
through,
it said.
I'm reading through the bill a little further.
Right.
It says boards of education and governing boards of public libraries are not to exclude library material from the library because of the origin, background, or views of the library material or those contributing to its creation. Boards of education and governing boards of public libraries are not permitted to engage in censorship.
Right.
Students and residents are to be able to reserve or check out any developmentally appropriate library material, including diverse and inclusive material.
I don't think we ever had. I don't know what makes it any different than what we've been doing.
So what,
Unless
what's
you have an
embedded
example.
in there,
Yeah.
they say about what the reference to library materials is, I believe is, part of that is a district needs to have a process for book challenges.
Right.
And I think what that does is it, in theory, protects that statement that you just
Right.
read.
And it actually further lays it out, further below what I think we may need to create a policy for that, which it says the creation of a request for removal form based on the model removal form established by the state librarian. Governing body appoint a review committee consisting of one member of the governing body, a librarian employed by the public library, a staff member who's not a librarian, a representative selected by the government. So like it sort of lists what would have to happen, but it also says that if this passes, it would not take place for another year following the date of enactment. So we do have some time before we
Right.
need to move on it. And I'm sure once it
Yeah, it's
passes,
not even, it's going back to
To the committee.
So
Yeah.
it's not even.
So it's good, so it gives us time to, like you said, to flush it out, and to, I mean, I can't speak about it for me, but since I've been sitting in the seat, I have no knowledge of the book being banned.
right.
Of any material being banned.
Yeah, I'm curious why it was sent back to the committee, because it looks like it was on the floor for a vote, so maybe there was something that they wanted to see happen.
And then, and it says on the NJSBA sheet that it supports as amended, so I don't know if.
Right, what the amendments were.
Sent back to be.
Right, so they want it back, and then once it's amended, it
So
had.
we don't know.
We don't.
Actually, oh, so you know what, it was referred to the Senate Education Committee, and then the Senate Education Committee referred it to the Budget and Appropriations Committee. So it's probably, because I'm assuming there's a cost, there's always a cost of
Yeah.
everything. So maybe they're saying if you're going to put this in place, do not get an unfunded mandate. You know, you need to provide funding for it in order for people to put this in place, although I don't really know how much
I was
there
gonna
is
say,
to.
what is the cost for that?
What cost would be if you make a policy?
I
New Jersey can find the cost for anything.
And they can do it in any of the state.
My famous saying, New Jersey state mandates, but they don't pay you anything else.
My son was shocked that we have to pay for groceries the other day, because I was telling him, he's buying school lunch, I said, we have to pay for lunch at.
How old is he?
Two, kindergarten.
Oh.
And so he's like, you have to pay for that? And I was like, you pay for pretty much everything. But yeah, okay, so that's, that, just looking down this, there's the discussion of the Oprah reform, which, was passed a while back, which sort of, it doesn't necessarily change as much as we initially anticipated, there were
And
amendments,
we talked
but.
about it, we definitely talked about this last month, and
Mhm.
to reiterate, again, Oprah has not changed here. We have not changed anything.
Yeah, well, yeah,
The process is the same. The law has changed. So,
and the requirements of the language in which you need to utilize in order to secure the document you're requesting.
correct.
Right.
So if there are no
I don't know if I can say
changes
that.
that have come from anybody sitting in this room,
Mhm.
all of the changes have come from the state.
And to that end, we have been utilizing, as you are aware, our attorney at a higher level, because some of the changes, the Oprah secretary who does the work is not sure of. Yes, she has done the research. Yes, if there's ever an opportunity for her to get the education or professional development, she does. But it's one thing to get the professional development and to report something. It's another thing to have an attorney sometimes peruse a document and say, so for example, and I could be far off, but I know that there's a difference in keywords versus subject,
Right.
just for example. So I think it was always keywords in the past, and now they want it subject, span of time. So to give an example, something not personal to anybody, there is a gentleman who uses his name, who keeps on putting in tremendous amount of information he wants. It just so happens he's a reporter. Just so happens he's doing it for many districts. Greg's happy to see that. Many districts,
Yes.
many districts. But the information that he's asking for is tremendous with regards to salaries and benefits and vacation, tremendous. So I immediately, because it's still currently, which we're gonna be making a change with the organizational chart, but it's still currently housed under me. When my Oprah secretary questioned me, I said, all that information is public and it teaches salaries, but it's not about that. It's about the amount. Because now the law states that anything, and there's some languages they use, anything that's, I'm gonna say a large task, it's not the right word, but anything that creates an enormous amount of work could be charged for, whereas we used to do it differently under the previous law firm would give us by lines. And I said to him, you have to, yes, I want to be fiduciarily responsible and not spend money, but we have to make sure that, and once you ask once, if it makes sense, we can use that same theme understanding. So she immediately did go to our attorney, and they actually have an Oprah lawyer. I don't know if it's the right term, but I believe she is the lawyer, let's rephrase. She is the attorney who does the Oprah.
Right.
So, because I said, wow, that amount of information would take,
Mhm.
and then there's some things that you say, refer them to the documents already there, because Oprah is very clear. Under the old law and the new law, we do not create a document.
Right.
There is no creation of document. So I think that some of the growing pains we're gonna get through, and if we've made, I'm afraid to say this, if we have not provided a document that perhaps should have been provided, and someone challenges it, we will by all means confirm that if we were in error, it will be provided. We want to be transparent, we want to provide anything and everything we're supposed to provide. But if we didn't provide it thinking that we shouldn't provide it, perhaps we didn't go to the attorney, or perhaps we did. that type of thing. So I think, and I'm glad that we brought it up because it needs to be said that we are not in any way looking to not provide information. Anything.
I do
Any
think,
information that is legally
Absolutely.
accessible to the public will be made legally accessible.
Transparency
right, I
is
do.
top of our list.
I do
Yes.
think that there was one other additional point with the legislation where, that was a change where you can still request things anonymously.
Yes, you
However,
have to make a statement.
Right.
I'm not a.
right, but I also think that if the information is not given to you.
You do not have to,
Don't have the right to challenge it.
you can challenge it, but not anonymously,
Right,
You have to put your name on
which
it.
I think is fabulous.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair. I think that, you know, if you want to get it anonymously, but you want to, I agree. So you are correct. Thank you. That is what it was. So, and I do agree. So we, you know, and because it's still, and even if it's not in my office, it's always going to be in my office because every office is my office. Because I'm top of the food chain for good or for bad. So that being said, that if there was a concern, if something should have been provided, it was our understanding, whether it's through legal counsel or through previous things that were not provided, so therefore we were following suit, and we find out that we are in error, it will be provided. And it's our pleasure to provide it.
good. All right, so looking through this, there's the special election separate proposal. We already know very well about the one that passed. And then looking down where it says bills on the move, there's the other one for the November that they do support, but that hasn't moved yet, hopefully.
It's kind of stuck. It's
Yeah.
in the same position since June.
Yeah, because they didn't, so we'll write to them about hopefully supporting that as well and pushing the November one forward, because that would.
Yeah, that is important to us. I mean, we are very hopeful that the cart before the horse scenario that I utilize, and I meant it in a positive way, because I think sometimes you have to do what you have to do.
Right.
We feel very confident that's all we can until we really see all of our actual numbers we're getting, that is not a concern, but having that as an opportunity is tremendous, because right now you can't go backwards. You can't start
Right.
the school year in September
Right.
and then decide in November you need money.
Yeah.
Because then what did you cut? What didn't you cut? What did you prioritize? What, it
Right,
doesn't
you
work.
can't start with
So,
the next
so
level,
regardless,
staff, and then-
regardless of whether or not we don't to go out for a question, that's a great opportunity to have that as a sale, you know, as a
Yeah.
safeguard,
Right,
to have that as a safeguard. So I am excited to see if that
yes.
would pass.
Let's see, they mentioned something about online school meal applications. Do we have that, I
Yes.
thought, right? So it's just a matter of making it statewide?
Free and reduced lunch. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, so I'm wondering if that's for this or if that's for all meals, but I can't imagine another form there would be, so. I guess
No,
we'll
that's the
follow up
only
with that.
application. We don't need an application. I mean, we have, do we still use school bus?
My school books.
My school bus. For anybody, no, I'm sure that's what it is. And that's something we talked about, gosh, I want to say at least 4 or 5 months ago.
Right.
Because we did it.
Mhm,
But that's
yes,
done.
yes, we did, and then
Right.
I got to hit yes, and I was very excited about it. I told Dave, I was like, we did this, and he's like, what are you talking about? So, let's see, there's the mention of, this one actually concerns me a little bit, just knowing where our district situation is, about compulsory school attendance. It lowers the age requirement of compulsory school attendance from 6 to 5, which
Would mean that
essentially would
we
mandate.
kindergarten would have to be a requirement. We have talked about this
Yes.
before in this committee when I think this was
First, yeah.
Like, I
Isn't,
saw it
isn't,
pop up.
isn't this like, this is not new.
It's not new.
It's not new, but I don't know that it's necessarily.
Let me see if there's been any
I haven't
movement on it.
checked to see if there's any.
There's no
I remember
movement
seeing
since-
an article come out on it.
Right.
And we had talked about it here one night.
Mhm.
And saying how that would have the trickle down effect. Well, okay, great. So you want to make the required, because kindergarten is not required. in
Correct.
Jersey. So now if you're moving the legal requirement to start school at 5, then that's kindergarten. So there's.
No movement since June, so I think they're just letting you know that it's there,
Right.
because there's also
Well,
not a lot of movement.
We're hopeful to have our plan to move
Right.
forward with kindergarten, that if it was to become a reality, we
Right.
could be ahead of
We're
the
ready
curve.
for it.
We'll see what that looks like as, you know, we get the number and, you know, the demographic report.
Tax deduction for classroom supplies, for educators and paraprofessionals, did that go away? Or, did that-
It used to be 200.
It used to be.
right,
no.
did it, I don't remember if it went away and they're trying to sort of put it back in.
Shouldn't go away.
It shouldn't. It should
It
be more
has
than
gone away?
250.
Well, yeah,
Did they, so they did away with that without raising it or lowering it? Just nothing?
I'm just curious why it's there, like, I know I used to deduct it, but that was 7 years ago, so I
No,
can't
my
recall.
daughter does.
What was the number?
It's 3416. Yeah. If you want to look at that, I'll,
Here.
okay.
It has not, it was received in the Senate in September and then referred to the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee on the 19th.
Right, but they don't already offer that?
I was gonna say, why is it there? Like, what are they changing about it?
Right,
And if they do decide to change it, do we have to follow it or can we still keep it as a policy in our district?
$250.
well, it's not a district policy, it's taxes, so it's a
I
state.
know, but I'm just saying, I don't want to see the teachers not get reimbursed.
Right, but that's not our, I mean, that's way above.
It's how they put it on their taxes.
Yeah,
Excuse me?
It's how they deduct it as a tax.
Right, I know. And my daughter and son have been doing it for years, but,
let's see, statement. I don't know, this would be
I
good to
don't-
follow up on. I mean, it hasn't passed
Yeah, it
yet.
sounds
They
like-
referred it to the budget committee, so we'll keep an eye on it and look
It
back.
says $250, so.
Yeah. All right, just trying to pick out things that look like they could, affect our district staff or students or community. Promoting universal school meals, they're supporting it. Obviously, hopefully that's funding along with that because that's just an additional cost.
Probably not.
School bus monitoring system.
That's
I'm curious about that one. A1432, are you pulling that up?
saying.
Okay, I'm curious if that's just for like the district to monitor school buses or if it's something different.
So the second reading of the assembly.
I don't see too many other things here. Establishing a special ed transportation task force, that would be good, because I know that's a cost to us that's been increasing above the cap, the
Mhm.
cost of transportation to.
And we have to pay.
So this,
Right.
this law is with regards to cameras on the bus tracking, like being able to monitor if a car doesn't
Stop.
stop. It says,
Okay.
it's a governing passing the school bus.
Yeah, so that's really, I mean, it does affect us, but it does.
It requires, having at least one camera and a computer that captures and records a digital video or image of any motor vehicle operating near a school bus.
Okay. All right, is there
And
any,
it imposes a penalty.
yeah, is there anything else on here that anyone feels like is worthy of bringing up discussion or whatnot? I think we hit most of
Yeah.
the highlights on here.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is, where things are for right now. Everyone sort of just came back in September, so it's possible that things will start to move more. And, we'll certainly keep an eye on that. There's actually a website where you can put in certain bills that then, if there's movement, they'll notify you. So that way you're aware that, this is passed or this was rejected or something like that.
Can I ask, in December, when I go to the school boards,
Delegate assembly?
Delegate assembly,
Mhm.
we will discuss that beforehand so we can make sure I vote.
Oh, yeah,
That one.
yes, so the handbook, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
the, which actually, we heard back, I had submitted the resolution, which, I actually had just shared with them was a bit of a
Very
task because apparently the way that it was, like we had written it, they had changed it from like when we had first started writing it, where you have to now find a place where it should go in New Jersey School Board's manual of policies and
I can't make it any
practices
easier.
or something like that. And
Sure.
so you had to figure out if there was already a statement about what you were asking for. And then if you wanted if there wasn't, if you wanted something to be added, or if there was, if you wanted it to be modified, or if it was something you felt against for it to be taken out. So I spent a lot of more time than I really wish I had looking through the manual to see if there were impact fees in there. And I looked through like state funds, district funds, national funds, and I didn't see anything. So I said this should go in state, funding. Turns out that they accepted the resolution in terms of the way it was written. I also had to write like a cover letter about why this was important to us, but there is something already in the manual about impact fees, which was under long-range facility planning or something of that nature, under.
Which actually does make sense.
I know now, like, I just didn't think of it when I was spending that time doing it. So they said that they don't support the resolution because they already have it and we were asking for it to be added. However, not supporting the resolution doesn't mean it's still gonna be discussed.
Right.
So, which is to me honestly equally important because it was about highlighting the importance of this.
And then maybe they should have it in two spots.
Right.
Because it's very important.
So the resolutions subcommittee, we meet in November, and so I'm on that subcommittee, so if someone else wants to come on and I can still speak to it, but if somebody else also wants to be there to discuss it, we can do that as well. We can talk about that. And then the subcommittee determines whether or not to agree or disagree with New Jersey School Board's decision. But then either way, no matter what, it still goes to the delegate assembly with the rest of the resolutions in that handbook, which, you know, we'll discuss, hopefully at the November meeting, because it's pretty early in December.
Yeah,
Um,
what's it, the 7th or something?
So, but if not, then we can always, you know, discuss it off.
Where they said they found it, did it list what schools got? I mean, because we're trying to get the impact fees higher for school districts.
Well, it's not a matter of what schools got, so it's a matter of whether or not New Jersey School Board supports impact fees.
Not the
and
way
which-
they
which
impact.
It's my,
we do,
which is
but-
my understanding that it's there,
It's
but no,
there,
but it's not imposed
No,
upon them to pay
it's
anybody.
water, sewer, and
Yes,
it's all
right,
three
yes,
things.
yes.
Right, so no, they support adding education. I'll read to you exactly what.
Because
they
if
wrote to
you
me.
use another state like Florida, they build the schools.
So dear Ms.
Yeah.
Ratner, on behalf of New Jersey School Boards, I want to thank the Monroe Township Board of Education for the resolution submitted to the December 7th, 2024 Delegate Assembly. The revised resolution was received on October 3rd in compliance with the October 3rd filing deadline. New Jersey School Board staff members have completed an initial review of the submission and have determined the resolution satisfies the association's filing requirements. Accordingly, the resolution will be placed on the agenda for the resolution subcommittee meeting for November 2nd. Please note that staff had reviewed the resolution and determined that it is an affirmation of existing policy 7110, long-range facilities planning, and 7300, financing, which is under the facility planning. Therefore, the staff will recommend that the resolutions committee remove the resolution from the delegate assembly agenda. If staff members have any questions prior to making a recommendation, they generally will reach out to the business administrator, board secretary, if that person's a valuable district resource. If staff should reach out to someone other than the business administrator or board secretary, please advise as to the appropriate point of contact. Sponsoring boards may upon request appear before the resolution subcommittee to advocate for adoption of the resolution. If you would like a representative to appear before the subcommittee, please notify this person before October 25th. And the resolution subcommittee will determine whether to place Monroe's resolution before the delegates for deliberation as was originally filed, reject the resolution, or whether to revise it. So,
I think we should.
right, I think we can go and say, listen, well, we understand it's under this,
Mhm.
it's a matter of funding, and we feel like it also should be placed under funding, state aid and things of that nature.
Like Katie said, in another separate category, or, you know, whatever.
Given the nature of the budget crises that are gonna start
Exactly.
facing a number of.
Many
districts
school
in the
districts.
State, I feel like the state that, well, let's start with school boards, right?
Mhm.
Should be open to any sort of avenue where,
Mhm.
again, additional funds can come in. So if we can
Yes.
get that resolution out there.
Should I have them, because they said they would generally reach out to Ms. Allen,
Mhm.
is that who I should have them reach out to regarding impact fees?
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. And then we can discuss about having an advocate for the adoption of the resolution. And go from there, but that's what we had gotten back. So
You would be the advocate when you go to the November 2nd meeting,
Right,
correct? In order to
there's,
push
I
it?
can advocate as well, but we
And
can
then-
also have an additional person. So we could have someone else advocate and then I can support it as well. So there's multiple people, or I
Right.
can just.
Are you,
advocate.
is it in person?
No, it's usually over Zoom.
Over
It
there?
has been for the last 2 years since I've been doing it, last year since I've been doing
So
it.
then you'll find out on the 2nd whether they're going to push it. If they don't push it forward, can I go on the 7th and still try to push it forward?
It's
No,
not gonna be on the- it's not on the agenda.
no, the only other
I can't stand up
avenue,
and say, can I add to the
the
agenda?
only other avenue we would have would be an emergency resolution, but this wouldn't really fall under that, especially because we've already submitted it. so.
I could try and slip it in.
Well, if anyone could, it's you. But
Oh, thanks. I don't know if that's good or bad.
no, it's good. You're
You're
persistent.
tenacious, Gail.
Exactly. Look at all these nice big words we're using. All right. So
I don't know how
That
to
was-
say that anymore.
where were we with that?
You take it great because we love it.
Impact fees,
Okay.
delegate assembly. Okay, school funding task force, the formula task force. So I actually don't remember seeing this on the New Jersey School Board update. But I'm kind of disappointed to see that these were, again,
Mhm.
created or as bills in January, February,
Mhm.
March.
Yeah.
When every district is like, we don't have funding, you need to save us, or we're not gonna reelect you, and now we're hearing nothing about it.
This is
So,
going on how many years now, this funding test?
and I still remember that time, like 3 years
This
ago now.
funding-
And they were rude.
I think since it started,
It's years.
it's been years.
It's years.
Yeah, I know we discussed looking at the other districts.
Right.
So if,
Didn't you want me to do something?
yeah, I had
I
emailed
thought
it
of
to
that
you.
today. Something, and I don't remember what it was.
If you can, so we can start reaching out to other districts that are having funding issues and say, listen, we'd like to see this moving. Can we create a coalition of districts that never got their fair share, are losing it, just so we can get this task force going? And then, the next part would be like, well, what do you want to see? But we're not there yet.
I think I had asked you where I would probably have to start with,
I sent you,
on Google, you sent me something?
I emailed to you the link with the different aids and the
Can you
links
do
to
that
where.
again, please?
Sure.
Because I delete very quickly.
Yeah, I'll do it. I mean, I'm happy to do it as well. I'm trying to delegate things.
No, I told you I didn't mind because,
Right.
and especially the next 2 days, my husband's out doing something and I'll be glad to go on
Okay,
the
yeah,
computer and start
I'll-
working on it.
I'll send it to you again. I'll
Thank
just
you.
reply to what I said.
I'm sure I saw it.
It's all right. It's all good. We'll get this going. Last thing, 10 minutes left. We might finish on time. How's about that? Is our board goals discussion. So this is happening in every committee. But we annually set board goals. We have the board goals from last year. Ms. Fabiano had shared, where our goal really for the legislative advocacy, community engagement, I mean, sort of everything falls under advocacy, like we sort of talked about that yesterday at the citizens.
Yes, and I think
Advisory
it's great
Committee.
because it's listed in every space, yeah, the strategic plan, yes.
But, so I would say for us, like last year, it was, board goal 4, committed to engaging our community to support needs of our district. The board will achieve this by creating a community survey to gauge how the community would like to receive information from the district, create a letter writing campaign, which we did get done, in which members of the community can reach out to our legislators to seek support for various legislation that can improve funding to our district, stay informed on all pending legislation that directly affects our district, and discuss as a board any response to our legislators.
Good job, team.
Yeah, we definitely, like, those last two, we really did. And the first one, the survey, well, we did the strategic plan, which was a massive survey.
It was,
And
and it's not,
Right.
I can add the CAC to
So
this.
I
too.
feel like, yeah, I feel like this committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee goals are gonna
The
be
same,
one
yeah.
and the same.
I
I
agree.
would say,
Ultimately, like the first line in the goal where it says the board is committed to engaging our community to support the needs of the district. The board will achieve this by,
mhm.
implementing the Citizens Advisory Committee in, tasked with, what do we talk about? Funding.
Or alternative sources, streams of.
By engaging the members of the committee.
Yeah, I like that, my engagement, so you created it already, it's already created, so it could have been a goal, but you already achieved it.
Well,
Right.
it's for this year.
That's for this year, so.
Continue it.
We'll create and engage, and continue to engage,
Yes.
and continue, I do
Are you
think,
ready?
I do agree with you, it should be one, Rosemary.
I would really like for us to make a goal for us to get to Trenton, well, like, I don't wanna say all of us, but as a district, like, I know, like, we spoke last year, but I know, we had also briefly discussed, like, getting a bus, even if we can't necessarily have a bus, but have some type of, organized carpool or something like that in order to really make ourselves known that.
That was definitely something that the members of the
Yes.
committee seemed very, intrigued with last night when we
Yes.
talked about
They
this.
wanted, they were very much interested in it, and.
Right.
Very
That's
well
that's
done.
all.
Very well done.
We get a coalition, so to speak, to go to Trenton.
Right.
Right.
It's one thing for, 10 of us to show up down there, but if we can have.
Right, so
Say,
they get
yeah.
10 people.
Say
and
these
then-
are community members
Right,
that are before you.
all right, and they
Yeah.
each reach out to their, one of you used the right word. Dr. Lynn, I think it might have been you, their groups of people, their stakeholders.
Constituents.
I was
Um, To, also come, so like, their strength in numbers,
Right.
and, even if not everybody speaks,
No.
just everybody is, able to be there and show support.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anything in terms of goals, aside from funding and advocacy in terms of community engagement that we would want to see. I,
I don't want to overextend.
Right.
Like, I feel like we're, like, a big part of getting our community involved is with the Citizens Advisory Committee, who the members of that committee will in turn engage more members of the community. That means that I also don't want to not engage as many people as possible.
right, yes.
I've thought about that, only, so, and I was just about to, I would hate to, ultimately we'll converge committees, but, not yet.
Right,
But one of the things that continues to come up at this committee, and I don't think we've come up with a solution for it yet,
Mhm.
is how do we effectively canvass the active adult communities?
Mm.
And again, that's not necessarily maybe that's not a committee goal, but, but maybe the committee could help us through, our dialogue with our groups and continue dialogue, and maybe some of the feedback we can get from the CAC. Figure out better ways to maybe leverage a new website. I don't know. I don't know the answer.
Enhanced communication,
Yeah.
enhanced communication with our active adults.
We have talked about as a committee, like bagels with the board
Right,
kind of thing. So that would be something where, we would reach out to, our active adult communities and say, members of the legislative committee or, 3 or 4 members of the board would like to come into the community to just, chat, so to speak.
Right.
We do not provide anything. We will not be paying for food or anything. It's just an opportunity for you to come and speak with us. That might be something that we,
so for the district goals, like, I know, like, I see what was here for last year. I also know, like, it's like sort of what we have with the strategic plan where there are the goals, like the initiatives, and then like the action plan. Is that something that we'd want to consider? Because we could say like enhance communication with the community, not limited to active adult communities. And then we could put examples of that as like an action plan sort of ways to do that.
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say that what's nice about last night curriculum meeting, everything still threads through the strategic plan. If let's say, if the objective of this particular subcommittee is to, let's just say you guys decide that you wanna, hey, we just wanna begin establishing a more permanent presence in the communities. Like while I recognize that we can't solve full day kindergarten probably by Christmas. But, we certainly can activate our steps into solving it. And, so that, maybe it's just soliciting more feedback from our communities, particularly maybe in targeted areas that we feel underrepresented or under
Something along the lines
lack
of
of awareness or whatever. Survey or bagels with the board or just more open house type things, or maybe it's something as simple as just, talking to each clubhouse manager more,
I'm gonna say.
more explicitly and saying, well, tell me what you guys need. And with the new server, we have a lot more, we have different resources now that we didn't have 16 months ago. We have a new broadcast server. We have a new website that's gonna hopefully be a little more user-friendly and streamlined to more people. We have new interns that work for us throughout the district whose job is specifically to work with our instructors to create more, to cover more things happening and to pump that into our new channels and, we could leverage those assets.
Right.
And meaningful is obviously. So, again, maybe it's just a construction of a
Nope.
action plan.
One thing that I would really love to see, and like I brought this up before, but I still remember my grandparents living in Clearbrook in like 2001, having the senior prom where they brought the there are a lot more seniors now, we're a much bigger town, but it was like the high school kids along with the senior
We
citizens.
have it in the other districts.
I don't know if that's something that can be done or things along those lines, but I still remember and it was right around the time where they were passing the referendum, I think, for the new high school. And so,
I remember that. So
yeah,
it's a Rob Goodall special.
I don't know if that's something that can still be
Most of
done.
the, I know,
like what our board goal would be to engage the
Right.
members of.
Where I'm trying to think of like ideas of ways we can. So I did enhance communication throughout the community. I did bagels with the board, active adult newsletter communication, survey, targeted areas. I feel like there should be more to that. Survey targeted areas where we feel communication is
maybe it's something as simple as identifying, areas where we're not getting the message out, you know? That's a little bit more challenging because you don't know.
We don't know.
What they don't know, but, you know, maybe, you know, I can talk, there are probably some ways we can explore that.
I think some of us that live in the adult communities can go to the people that are in charge of the meetings and different things, because I know all different clubs meet in our meeting house. So to have everybody there at one time would be a lot. So we might have to have different sessions or have a session.
You mean in
to
one
do- to be
community?
Put on, excuse me?
You mean in like one?
In Rossmore.
Right.
Yeah, and actually have it put on, the television
Mm.
channel so that everybody they can't make the meeting, everybody can at least watch it. And, because there's a lot of questions about budgeting and referendums and how come that high percentage always goes to, you know, you're 85% for, going for teachers and salaries and all that stuff. They don't understand that. And the tax raises. I mean, I'm not saying everybody, but it does take a while to understand when you become a senior that, I've known it for, 20 years now, but a lot of people don't.
Right.
That this money goes here, this money goes there. I know we've had pie charts, I know we've done this, and we've done a lot of things. You did with the referendum. I don't know if we can each find out who we can talk to in each, senior.
Right. I think Mr. Meralda has mentioned he has like the list of the.
Do you have a list?
I did, I actually just gave it to, Ms. Drust because we're promoting, Monroe History Night, which is next week,
That's great.
17th. so
Next Thursday, 6 PM.
Make sure you come.
Right.
It's actually, you know, these are one of those things that probably doesn't get these types of events don't get the credit they deserve. And these things are
Right.
fascinating that especially Ms. Drust, she sets up. But we recognize that, and I was just thinking, the other thing that I know I don't do enough for our communications is we don't leverage the municipal communication channels as well. And they've never said no when we've asked them to send something out. It's just, I try to be mindful of not muddling their communications,
Right.
but, maybe are you not getting information from the school district? Here's how you can. Maybe we just do something like that
Yeah.
periodically, or ask
That's
them
a
to
good
put a
idea.
boilerplate in there for us.
With,
or something.
putting out your new website in November,
Mhm.
if you haven't been able
Yeah,
to maneuver
use that,
before,
good idea.
here it is in new format. You can go here and give them the two straight directions on how to find out what they're looking for.
All right.
I mean, that's something I think we can do.
Yeah. Okay. So just because I know we're already over, so
Yeah.
obviously definitely tweak that from what we had and include some of the ideas, and then we'll also do the enhanced communication. And I feel like we could probably, keep it to those, those two goals, which sort of overlap with citizens advisory.
Why is there not a goal 3?
Well, there's 5 goals here.
I know, but there's only 4 on the page.
Oh,
Yeah, there's only 4 on the page, but there's no number 3.
I don't know, maybe 3.
They noticed it on the original.
It wasn't there.
All
Only
right.
just only 4.
Number 3 is secret. You have to know the password.
I wouldn't say publicly that we have anything.
I was kidding, there is no number 3.
So there's only.
They don't even know what we're talking about,
Only
the
want
district goals
4
from
goals.
last year.
Correct, for this year,
Four goals.
that's the thing, we only want 4 goals.
Oh, is that, okay,
Yeah, it
And
makes
to
sense.
extend these goals for each committee
Yeah,
to,
across the committees.
okay,
right.
Because they can interjoin.
right, and they can,
And
and they will.
they should.
If each committee sends me their kind of like write-up, then I'll try to.
Format
put them together into 4.
Mine's right there on number 4.
Okay, got it. Yeah, right here. Yeah.
All right, that is everything. I don't want to take more time from finance. We are,
Thanks, everyone.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.